Hello, and welcome to my exterior crafting corner or workshop. Originally, I had made a nice little video about airbrushing and how to do some Halloween faces. That didn't come out, thanks technology. So, instead, I've been working on a couple lawn gnomes, and I thought I would explain that process a little bit, kind of go through what I do and how I refurbish them. I have roughly 15-ish lawn gnomes and decorations, some older than others. This one is from roughly the 80s, give or take. But the molds that make a lot of these gnomes, this guy is a cement hiking character, are much older. They come from the 40s or 50s. They're usually heavy-duty industrial molds, so you can find old-looking gnomes that may have only been cast 20 or 30 years ago. So what I usually do with refurbishments, it kind of varies on what the gnome is made out of and the style. So he's concrete, very solid, and he has kind of a gloss paint already on him. Gloss paint can be an issue, especially if you're using something like apple barrel acrylic paint. That logo is backwards, but you get the gist. It doesn't always want to stick, and I try to not have to work on these every year. So I usually don't remove paint from gnomes. I started to, and I remembered why I never do. It's impossible, or I should say extremely hard, and I'm impatient. So I tried different kinds of chemical strippers for him. It was very painful, I'm sure. I apologize. And also a heat gun. So not only did he get a chemical peel today, he also was roasted in an oven. So he got the full spa treatment for sure. And then I just went with the standard practice, which I don't always do either. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm just using apple barrel acrylic to sort of make him one color before I fill him in with other acrylic paint. I go with a white just as a base coat. You can really do any color. If there's one predominant color, like frogs, I have a couple frogs that are like all green. You could just do a green base coat and you'd be all set. For him, he's sort of all over the place. So it's just easier to go to a white or even sometimes a gray, like a mid-tone, if there's other colors in there. I will say Apple Barrel Paint, I'm not sponsored by them. Please sponsor me, I'd love that. Dries extremely quick, especially in this warm weather we've had, pardon me, lately. I put this paint on like 2 minutes before I filmed, and it's pretty much already dry to the touch. So I highly recommend that. I use their stuff a lot for any of the professional jobs I'm doing, sign painting, high durability animatronics and things. It's a really good brand as far as like staying, and also the pigment is really good. But that's me being nerdy. There we go. Now I'm in frame. And I broke the chair because of quarantine and baking. That's a whole nother DIY for another day. Occasionally, though, this step is actually not even needed. I'll get him more in camera here. There we go. It's not required. A lot of the poly resin gnomes, I don't have a good example with me, but basically whatever you find at a CVS, Rite Aid, a Walmart, those are poly resin. They're hollow, and for those, acrylic sticks pretty good to the exterior without needing any help. If they're faded and paint has already pretty much chipped off anyway, you can just go ahead and paint that. some light sanding if you really feel it's necessary, if there's a bit of a gloss. And then some figures, or gnomes, are like they're a weird material, like they're gray, and they have a whitewash sort of patina on them. Michael's is the only place I know that sells them, and maybe Lowe's. Those are best painted with spray paint, honestly. I airbrushed mine, and I'll do maybe a tutorial on that one day. I could not get acrylic paint to really stick to it. I'm not a chemist, so I have no idea why. Maybe that gnome is just bitter. I hope he finds peace and solace. Say a prayer for him, put an F in the chat if you're a hipster, whatever, I don't know. So anyway, back to this guy. All you do, it's pretty simple. If you've painted a house, you could do this. You just put your coat on there and cover him up. I do 2 coats just to kind of, fill in cracks, and also, now that there's chip paint, you want to hide that. But also it gives a nice kind of cover to the overall gnome. It sort of seals it in. Concrete, I got paint on me. You should wear old clothes. I'm wearing my official dad shirt today. Do not paint in a tux, a wedding dress, or any kind of clothing that is essential to your actual, daily life, like a job. Don't know why you would. Be extra. I'm not judging. But, yeah, you will probably get paint on you. I have gotten paint on my face before, and in my beard. It's a thing. So, anyway, you do roughly 2 coats. You can do 3 if you have a lesser acrylic and it's not staying, or the opacity of it, if you've got other colors showing through. Do 3. It's fine. Because this is sort of this step that I've found can mess up other steps. I've used white spray paint before, which can work. Do not get a gloss spray paint unless you plan on doing other areas, of that gnome with spray paint. Acrylic will tend to not stick, it'll just flake off. So that's one thing to be aware of. And then to finish this gnome, which this step will take a little bit of time, maybe an hour, hour and a half, to get him fully coated. Maybe less if I decide to move extra quick. You can just use any kind of acrylic paint you want. I took a photo of one half of him, as well as a photo of the front, which is what I posted to Instagram last night, just so I have a color reference. The colors on him are sort of strange. He was airbrushed originally, I can tell. So it's going to be hard to find direct matches. I don't know if that motorcycle interrupts the video or not. We'll find out. It's all part of the adventure. As I was saying, I can't really... Some of these colors are sort of really weird, and they have a lot of effects to them. So I have to come up with a color in between those, and sort of work from there. I probably would airbrush him, but I kind of want to paint this figure by hand. Some figures, or gnomes, you get really into, and restoring them becomes very much so a work of art, and kind of, you have a vision. Sometimes, you get this idea of, the ideal gnome, and then sometimes it's just, I really need to get this painted so it can go out of my yard, or for a friend, and things like that. I've ran into both situations, Some gnomes also don't take that long to paint, and you can whip them out pretty quickly. I've had some where it takes a day. I've had some that take... I have one in my yard now that is 3 feet tall, 3.5. He took months to do. He was massive, completely concrete. A lot of